What I am going to be talking to is dangerous turn torsion ovary. And let me just tell you about the facts of torsion ovary. Ovarian torsion is the fifth most gynecological surgical emergency. Symptoms of ovarian torsion are non-specific. Varied imaging features can lead to delay in identification, misdiagnosis being common, early recognition and restoration of blood flow are important to avoid irreversible ovarian damage. Increased awareness of this condition are needed for timely intervention, and I'm happy for the organizers to have included this topic in this great conference, because we want all the clinicians and budding laparoscopic surgeons to be aware of this condition. How do you define torsion of ovary? Ovarian torsion is defined as partial or complete rotation of the ovarian vascular pedicle, and which causes obstruction to venous outflow and arterial inflow. It is usually associated with cyst or tumor, which is typically benign. The most common is the mature cystic teratoma. Adnexal torsion is also known, and which can occur in up to 67% of cases of adnexal torsion. Ovarian torsion can occur in female of all ages, and women in their reproductive years have the highest prevalence, with 17% to 20% of cases occurring in pregnant women. Symptoms of ovarian torsion are often non-specific, making it difficult to differentiate from other causes of acute abdominal pain, and the classic presentation includes sharp, localized right or left lower abdominal pain and tenderness with a palpable abdominal mass and peritoneal signs. In some cases, patients experience intermittent pain, which makes the diagnosis even more challenging. There are certain predisposing conditions, amongst them large heavy cyst and cystic neoplasm, such as benign mature cystic teratomas, hemorrhagic cyst, and cyst adenomas are common. It is rare to see ovarian torsion from cysts smaller than 5 centimeters. If you look at the pathophysiological features, the twisted vascular pedicle in the suspensory ligament of affected ovary compromises venous and lymphatic outflow, and arterial inflow, however, is sustained because arteries have thick muscular walls and are less collapsible. This results in diffuse ovarian edema and enlargement, which over time causes the capsule to stretch and increases pressure on the ovary. So look at the diagnostic modalities. We have grayscale ultrasound, Doppler ultrasound, CT, MRI, and laparoscopy, which is diagnostic as well as treatment as well. If you look the features at grayscale ultrasound of ovarian torsion, whenever you find unilateral enlarged ovary more than 4 centimeters, a string of pearl sign, coexisting mass within the twisted ovary, free pelvic fluid, twisted vascular pedicle, usually located in midline and superior to fundus, and multiple peripheral cysts in the setting of pain with a unilaterally enlarged ovary are helpful in diagnosing ovarian torsion. This is a picture of 12-year-old girl presented to us with torsion ovary. Look at the edematous enlarged ovary and a small uterus lying on the top of it. Torsion is more common on the right side. Left side, it is protected probably because of the sigmoid colon. There is a sign called color imaging whirlpool sign. The presence of flow at color Doppler imaging does not allow exclusion of torsion, but instead suggests that the ovary may be viable, especially if flow is present centrally. Absence of flow in twisted vascular pedicle may indicate that ovary is not viable. So this is how the whirlpool sign will look on ultrasonography. There is a Isiok classification of adnexal torsion. In 2009, Isiok gave this classification class 1, coiling of vascular pedicle with detectable arterial and venous intra-ovarian flow. Class 2 is coiling of ovarian vessel with detectable arterial blood flow but no venous flow within the ovary. Class 3 is coiling with absent intra-ovarian arterial and venous blood flow, and this situation is typically associated with an ischemic or necrotic ovary. You can offer CT scan to the patient. On CT scan, you will see enlarged ovary, uterine deviation to the twisted side, smooth wall thickening of the twisted adnexa, fallopian tube thickening, peripheral cystic structure and ascites, and understanding the imaging appearance of ovarian torsion will lead to conservative ovarian sparing treatment. Treatment options, this is the important part of discussion. where I will be talking to you about counseling, laparotomy versus laparoscopy, detorsion and conservative therapy, excision of adnexa at the same sitting, operating cyst at the same time, and oophoropexy. It is very, very important that you do a proper preoperative counseling, because there is a possibility of negative laparoscopy. There is no preoperative definite diagnostic modality available to say that yes, this patient has torsion or this patient does not have torsion. So you may come out with a negative laparoscopy. Potential for a two-stage procedure in the event that removal of an underlying cyst is deferred, need for post-procedure surveillance and risk of recurrent ovarian torsion, and in special circumstances, a discussion on possibility of an underlying malignancy is warranted. Consent forms a very important part, because you may be operating on adolescent girl. Parents need to be explained in case ovary needed to be excised. They will be giving consent on her behalf. Reproductive age group women and her partner need to be explained, and detailed consent has to be taken before surgery. I have brought 3 case scenarios here. One is premenarchal 12-year-old girl, one is 22-year young girl, and one is 28 years gravida 1, para 1. Let's look at the first case. Premenarchal, she had adnexal torsion in 12-year-old girl with 3 weeks history of intermittent abdominal pain, which was thought to be due to constipation, which is unfortunate. A grayscale ultrasound image showed an enlarged ovary with stromal edema. Duplex ultrasound image showed peripheral arterial flow and absent or greatly decreased central venous flow. And at surgery, the ovary appeared necrotic. Unfortunately, I had to do salpingo oophorectomy because there was no demonstrable viable ovarian tissue. Look at the sonography picture, uterus, left ovary and the right ovary. If you see, there is no intra-ovarian blood flow, only blood flow, very little at the periphery. This is the picture when we put in a laparoscope, a large, very blue looking ovary was seen. And if you look at the video, this is the uterus, which is a small prepubertal uterus, which is lying on top of a ovary. And this ovary was really falling apart. I think it was more than 3 weeks duration. She was going from one place to another place, and diagnosis was not being made. And here it was really not salvageable ovary, because like we just could not hold on to the stumps. And this case, we had to do excision, did a thorough lavage, and other ovary and fallopian tube were pretty normal. So we did a good counseling, and patient was followed up later on as well. So there are some special consideration when you're operating in young women. 2 unique characteristics are: one, adolescents are at higher risk of vascular injury involving the aorta, inferior vena cava, or left common iliac veins, because the distance from these major vessels to the umbilical entry site is short. So this has to be kept in mind, and place the small trocars. And another thing which is very important is insufflation requires modification, because tolerable maximum distension pressure is lower in pediatric and adolescent patient. So the key point in adolescent girl is that it is commonly seen. Think about that when a young girl presenting with pain, that she might have adnexal torsion. This is a very beautiful committee opinion by American College of Obstetrician and Gynecologist, published in August 2019, which says adnexal torsion is a surgical diagnosis. A minimal invasive surgical approach is recommended with detorsion and preservation of the adnexal structure, regardless of appearance of the ovary, which I bring in my next case. Here, she's a 22 years age, going to get married in 3 months' time. She had 1 year back cystectomy from her left ovary. She had severe intermittent pain for 3 days. Ultrasound demonstrated large right ovary. Tenderness was there. Torsion was suspected. So what we did here, I'm sorry, I have a very little video clipping of this. So I just brought some pictures here. There's a huge purple looking ovary. We aspirated it, and then what we found, that there were lots of return was taken by the ovary. So did the detorsion, aspirated the fluid, reduced the volume, debulking was done, and a resuturing and restructuring of the ovary was done here. And now I'm happy to inform that this girl is pregnant with around about 12 weeks of pregnancy. So look at first look, when we looked, I thought we may not be able to salvage this ovary because it looks really very echymos, very purple. And so the aspiration procedure was done. And after that, we did untwisting of the pedicle. Though it looked very, very necrotic, I was in double mind when you are dealing with such situation, that whether I should be taking it out. I hope that I'm not leaving a lot of necrotic material, but eventually we just left it because we could hold on to the ovary. It was, structure was maintained. So just left it and followed her up, this ovary, on the subsequent visit by ultrasonography. So few follicles were also seen in the ovary. So this is how this was done.
Ma'am, sorry to interrupt, but we have 1 minute remaining.
Okay, so appearance of the, I'm going to wind up in 1 minute. The appearance of the ovary at surgery is not a reliable indicator of the viability, and multiple studies report future ovarian function despite a grossly ischemic appearance at the time of surgery. This case, I'm just going to skip because again, it's a very, so let me just come on to my final 2 slides. Management, excision or detorsion. The gold standard to treat ovarian torsion is surgery, and this is also the only way to confirm torsion. So there are 2 surgical methods, laparoscopy and laparotomy, and we know that laparoscopy is a popular procedure. Whether you should do cystectomy at the same sitting or later, I think detorsion should be performed and cystectomy alone should be avoided, since removal of the cyst may cause an undue removal of ovarian tissue inadvertently. As in adnexal torsion, there is no clear plane of separation between the cyst and its bed, and the whole organ is highly friable. Oophoropexy is fixation of ovary is performed, reducing the risk of further episode of torsion, therefore maintaining the long-term fertility. So there is a lack of evidence regarding the long-term outcome of oophoropexy. So just the take-home message from my talk: unfortunately, ovarian torsion is often misdiagnosed because of the non-specific symptom and lack of diagnostic modalities. There are no specific symptoms. Ultrasound is a useful but is not always reliable. In absence of an enlarged ovary, laparoscopic detorsion is recognized as the mainstay of treatment. Reports have shown favorable ovarian function after detortion. Role of oophoropexy remains controversial, and clinicians should be aware of ovarian torsion in girls presenting with abdominal pain. Timely management in young population can help preserve their ovaries and fertility. Since IPL season is on, catch them in time so that you can save the ovaries. Thank you very much for patience learning.